It's now been over 20 years since this masterpiece has been released. Well, 19 if you're in the West. It has sold 0.31 million in Japan, 0.54 million in America, and 0.21 million in Europe, and everywhere else 0.04 million. A grand total of 1.10 million. Heck, why do you think it has got the GameCube Player's Choice Award? Even after 20 years, the story, the music, and the gameplay is still strong as a Demon Fang and penetrating as a Sonic Thrust. This is the story of discrimination, survival, loss, finding truth and meaning, but ultimately the path of saving the world without human sacrifices. This is Tales of Symphonia.
Once upon a time, there existed a giant tree that was the source of mana. A war, however, caused this tree to wither away, and a hero's life was sacrificed in order to take its place. Grieving over the loss, the goddess disappeared unto the heavens. The goddess left the angels with this edict. You must wake me, for if I should sleep, the world shall be destroyed. The angels bore the chosen one, who headed towards the tower that reached up unto the heavens. And that marked the beginning of the regeneration of the world.
Now we are introduced to the protagonist, Lloyd Irving, a 17-year-old human boy who's not book smart or a sharp student, but has a burning passion for fighting for what's right, for helping those in need, and always there for his friends. Next we have Gina Sage, a 12-year-old half-elf who knows a lot about academia, but hates humans because of the way they treat half-elves, due to them being called inferior, and is Lloyd's best friend and can wield magic. Colette Brunel, a 16-year-old human girl who is the chosen of mana of the world of Silverant. She's caring, helps those however she can, and gives people comfort and hope to those who are lost. We lastly have Rain Sage, or Refill in Japanese, a 23-year-old half-elf professor who teaches her students at the Isadia School Village. A woman who goes crazy over everything history, archaeological and major technology, though she can be temperamental if she pushes the wrong buttons. And she loves to pimp slap, thrust kick and spank her younger brother whenever she gets the chance. Geez, where's social services when you need them? But she does care about her students and people she cherishes the most in her life, but she comes a bit later in the story. As the class go through the lesson of Mythos the hero who saved the world from the Desians and stopped the Ancient Carlin War, plus regarding what the duty of the chosen is particularly all about. It's a nice introduction to the game of what the journey will entail. Next we are thrown into a tutorial of how combat works, giving the player a taste of what to expect in this game and some experimentation. The enemies are not hard at all to defeat, but it gives a good synopsis of how to guard, jump, how to use items and also magic. It also goes into detail about enemy weaknesses, resistances to pay attention to. During your journey you have skits that gives the player more backstory interactions and sometimes on where to go if you're lost, if you have the spare time. Once you make it to the Chapel of Martel, the group finds out that the priests have been attacked by the Desians and are willing to risk their lives for the chosen. But Colette does not run. She is dedicated to her sacred role and she would do anything, even risking her own life, to accomplish it. Lloyd and Gina press on to fight the Desians, only to be hit by a roadblock with the first boss of the game they encounter, but he is too strong. This is where we get the next character that comes in, called Kratos, a mercenary, and to introduce someone who can use healing magic. Kratos decides to take on the role of guarding the chosen while she completes the trial. Lloyd wants to take on the task as well, but Kratos and Phaedra believe Lloyd will get in the way. But Colette wants Lloyd to help her face the trial, as she gets nervous without him. This will be your first dungeon that will introduce more enemies, puzzles and a sorcerer's ring for the upcoming dungeons, but it gives the player an idea of what challenges lie ahead in each dungeon you come across, being harder than the next. When we have finally completed the trials, the pilgrimage of the Chosen now begins. Colette must now travel all over Silverhunt, releasing each seal to finally become an angel and awaken the goddess Martel, so that the world can be saved. But unfortunately, reality is a cruel mistress. Throughout the journey, the characters will finally understand that the world is not what they think it is to be. We get our first pain of loss in the story, when the village of Isalia was attacked by the Desians from the Isalia human ranch, because of Lloyd and Genus attacking their guards in order to save Genus' friend, Marble. The two characters get a double blow to find out that the monster they defeated was the same person that they were trying to save. But not only that, the entire village gives them a mask-off gaslight moment.
What have you done? Look what happened to our village. It's all your fault.
I'm sorry.
You think you can fix this by apologizing? The Desians marked you as their enemy. As long as you are here, this village will never be at peace. Do you understand?
Wait a minute! You're going to exile him?
Yes.
That's not fair! Lloyd didn't do anything wrong! Just saved Marble!
Any involvement with the ranch is forbidden. There are no exceptions.
So it's okay to let people die at the human ranch as long as the village is safe?
The people at the ranch are just going to rot there anyway.
Yes. Had you not done something so stupid, they'd have been the only ones that died.
You humans are all the same.
That's enough, Genus. This was my fault. I'll leave.
Mayor, surely you don't have to be so strict on a child.
What are you saying? Do you realize how many people died here because of him?
It's not Lloyd's fault! I'm the one that took him to the ranch, so it's my fault!
But it's Lloyd the Desians are after. And besides, Lloyd isn't from this village to begin with. He's an outsider, raised by a dwarf.
Then I'm leaving too. I'm just as guilty as he is.
Genus.
And it's all their fault the village is destroyed. They don't even care about the other innocent people who have been captured and taken away by the Desians. So the Assailers' motto is now, is sacrificing people's freedom and lives are more important in order for the whole village to live in safety, then so be it. In their weak minds. When Lord Facista said that he would always be coming after Lloyd in order to get his ex-fear, the mayor then used that excuse to banish him, and anyone that disagrees, like Genus, should be banished too. Heck, he even flat out despises half-elves as well. We'll get into the discrimination theme later. Not only does he hate both of them, but it's to keep this entire village power structure in check for his own personal gain, so he will not have to suffer like anybody else in the village. But a smart and strong moral people know when it comes to situations like this, if there are humans, they will always be coming back for more slaves to capture like cattle. I bet if a boy ran into the forest and was captured by the Desians and the family was begging the village and the mayor to do something about it to get the child back, they would just gaslight the family and say, it is the child and your fault for bad parenting that this happened. Just be glad they didn't capture you. To the player, this shows the bigger picture of how the power structure is designed in Silverhunt, of how many people live in their safety bubbles and don't want to face their problems head on, and if things don't affect them, then they don't care what happens to others. If you talk to a lot of the NPCs in the game, they even say it out loud and no one bats an eyelid. But what keeps the group of the Chosen going, regardless of all the bloodshed, sacrifices and betrayals from the higher up governments and leaders? Well, they always keep saying the entire world is counting on us to save them. As long as we have the Chosen on our side, we will always win. Eventually, the group finds out that when Colette releases a seal and gains new angelic powers, she begins to lose her humanity, no longer eat, sleep, feel physical or emotional pain, and eventually she cannot talk, until we finally get to the end of the journey of regeneration. Lloyd finds out that it was all a farce. The group were preparing Colette's body to be the new vessel for Martel, meaning Colette would truly die. losing her heart and memory. Lloyd does not agree with this at all, but is too overwhelmed with the decision on sacrificing another person's life to save the world, or to stop this entirely and let Sylvarant suffer. But he eventually comes up with his own reason that the world is not truly saved if Colette cannot be a part of it. He stops his sick ritual, but now Colette is dormant in her own body like a puppet on death's door. Lloyd now takes the driver's seat of the rest of the journey, not only to save Colette, but to find another way to save both worlds, where no one lives are needed to be sacrificed and everyone has the right to live. The next chapter is brought to us when the group heads to Tefayala, a world parallel from Sylvarant, who knows more about Crucius crystals, which is the starting point of their own journey. Throughout the journey, upon trying to save Colette, the group eventually uncovers that the organisation Crucius have been controlling the world for the past 4,000 years. They have two goals: to show the superiority of half-elves and to awaken the goddess Martel. Yuan and Bota, both half-elves, also explain that Lord Yggdrasil controls both Crucius and the Desians. Crucius is worshipped by the Church of Martel out in the open, and they control the Desians behind the scenes. The Church is only an instrument to be used to control both worlds and everything around it. The angels are not gods at all. They're nothing more than half-elves who have evolved with special X-spheres known as Crucius crystals. Rain even explains further as she realises that the bloodlines of the Chosen have been manipulated ever since to create the vessel of Martel, using oracles from their manner lineage. Not only that, Lord Yggdrasil is the one that created the two worlds in the first place. There are four figures that control the organisation: Yuan, Kratos, Martel, and Lord Yggdrasil himself. But later in the game, the group finds out there is more than meets the eye with the four Seraphim. Lord Yggdrasil is Mythos the hero. There were four heroes who stopped the ancient Karlan War 4,000 years ago, but unfortunately Martel was killed by a human traitor. Mythos, in a panic, trapped her soul in a Crucius crystal and into the great seed of the giant Karlan tree. But her consciousness is forever in eternal limbo, not being able to speak or move, but she can see everything from the seed itself. Mythos, now broken and twisted, has given up on humanity, broken his promises to the world, the summer spirits, and even his own sister, Martel. The promise that the world where half-elves, humans, and all those in between can live in harmony, and to germinate the giant Karlan tree. Instead, he split the two worlds, founded the Desians, the Church of Martel, and manipulated the course of history and taken the great seed for himself. What he cared about the most was creating a new vessel for Martel, and if it meant sacrificing both worlds to reclaim what he had lost, he shall do so. Lloyd and his group, time and time again, try to reach out to Mythos and to stop the age of lifeless beings, return the great seed to them so they can reunite the two worlds, and no one has to suffer any longer. But Mythos has gone down his path for over 4,000 years. He thought he was so far gone that this was the only path that he could follow. Anyone that was in the way or rejected his ideals had to be destroyed. He didn't even care if Martel said no to his ideals, and his only copium is saying his sister would never reject him, even if it came through her own mouth. But Mythos is so obsessed with his totalitarian dream, he didn't see that his full shadow self was on full display, unlike his companions did. They have completely abandoned him. His sister, who he worked so hard to bring back, even truly dies so that Colette can live. Mythos was truly alone, and he himself knew this would happen. When Mythos is finally defeated by Lloyd's party, what's even more sad is Mythos still would make the same choices all over again, showing he doesn't want to move on and let go of the past. With the Eternal Sword in hand, Lloyd commands the Eternal Sword to reunite the two worlds, then revive the giant Karlan tree. With Tabitha as its new vessel as the guardian of the giant tree, the new world is regenerated and no longer deprived of mana. But Martel asks the group to protect the tree as it is only a seedling, by showing love and adoration and for the new world. Upon this request, Martel asks Lloyd to give the giant Karlan tree a new name, as the story finally comes to a close. Since Namco was going to make its first major Tales game to have a worldwide release, they had to create a story that was relatable to the entire world. It was no surprise that when people played and finished the game, it had the same themes from other major best-selling titles at the time, like Final Fantasy VII for its Survivors trio, and Final Fantasy X for its themes of high religious sectors controlling the world and themes of discrimination. And lastly, finding another way to save the world that doesn't involve human sacrifices for temporary peace. It's no surprise the writer Takumi Miyajima had inspiration from those games and used them for Symphonia. In addition, using references to Norse mythology, like the giant Karlan tree is similar to the world tree called Yggdrasil. Also, the main character, Lloyd, a name of Welsh origin that originally alludes to experience, wisdom, and a person entitled to respect, just like Lloyd Irving himself as he develops in the story. Fitting how Mythos Yggdrasil, like the world tree, using his deep connected roots to control both worlds behind the scenes, and is connected to the main cast in their own struggles. Now then, let's talk about the party and the minor characters in depth, starting with the Silverhand side. Lloyd Irving, the idealist.
I want a world where everyone can have a normal life. I'm tired of people having to become sacrifices. I'm tired of discrimination. I'm tired of people becoming victims. I'm tired of it all. I'm not Mythos. I want to save the two worlds my way with the help of my friends. You stupid jerk! You can die anytime! But when you die, that's the end.
You want him to live in eternal damnation?
Who said anything like that? What will you accomplish by dying? Nothing. There is no meaning in dying. Exactly. I'm not gonna give up. From the moment they are born, everyone has the right to live. I want to reclaim that. Humans, elves, half-elves, dwarves, and even summoned spirits. Everyone has a right to life.
Lloyd is the main protagonist of the game and was born near the village of Isalia. His mother was chased down by the Desians as her ex-Thea was part of the Angelus project. Before she died at the hands of the Desians, a dwarf named Dirk found them both. Anna begging Dirk to be his new father and passes on her ex-Thea to him. Now 17 years old and not a very sharp student, he decides to go on the journey of regeneration as he has a strong sense of justice, even though he hates the word. But Lloyd quickly learns his actions do have consequences, even when it is for the chosen. However, when things go wrong, he always finds a way to correct and repent from them. Eventually, Lloyd learns from Kratos to stop clinging to the chosen and fight with his own strengths and ideals, which eventually develops into the ideal of the world without sacrifices. When he eventually goes to Tafiala, this is when Lloyd shows his true leadership amongst the group, and even many others who meet him proclaim he is just like Mythos the hero. But Lloyd wants to do things for his own reasons, based on logic and skill in his decision making. Though he lacks some knowledge, other members in the party can help him out. Eventually, Lloyd finds out that not only Kratos is his true father, but as a companion of Mythos as well. Although Kratos has betrayed the group, eventually Lloyd forgives Kratos by saying,
I've defeated Kratos the angel, the one who betrayed us. And I forgive Kratos, the hero of the ancient war, who helped us. That's all.
Even Kratos compares him to his lost friend Mythos, except Lloyd sees and corrects his mistakes. With the help of his friends, the sacrifices and wishes for the people who have fallen prey to Crucius and the Desians, Lloyd was able to create the world that everyone wished for. With this new reason of living, Lloyd was the true idealist, as he relied on the strength of everyone and finally restoring the world to its former glory. He didn't rely on himself or find an easy way out. He kept looking for an answer through truth and logic, not by pure emotion or make-believe. Many times he could have given up and allowed Colette and many others to be sacrificed, but in the end, with his friends, he made the impossible possible. Genus Sage, the half-elf prodigy.
Ha ha! You got rejected! He's right, Mythos. It's the weakness of people's hearts that causes discrimination.
And I like you, Lloyd. And I like everyone we traveled with. Because I think they all like me.
You're an idiot. You're deluding yourself.
I'm the same. Just like those that hate half-elves, I get mad at humans and elves just for being who they are. That's just going to make them hate me more. My heart was weak too.
A 12-year-old boy who is Lloyd's best friend and younger brother of Rain Sage. He was born in Homendal in the world of Tafiala. He was only just a baby when his family had to travel around to avoid the soldiers that were tracking them down. But their mother had no choice but to send him and Rain to the otherworldly gate and abandon them there. Using the gate, Rain and himself were transported to Silverrand and started a new life in Isalia on their own, but lied by saying they are pure-blooded elves, so they are accepted due to mass prejudice against them. He is a prodigy at academics and magic for a very young age, and can be considered mature. He looks up to Lloyd as he considers him bold and strong. He made a friend in the Isalia ranch called Marble, who she herself considered him as a grandson to her. But of course, this breaks the treaty with the village. But in the event of the attack on Isalia, and after finding out the monster they have killed was Marble, Genus sees the people of the village for what they really are, when they wanted to banish Lloyd and him for standing up for Lloyd. He later remarks, "You humans are all the same," showing his inner hatred towards humans. Throughout the journey, Genus turns his hatred towards humans into motivation, showing that half-elves are just as worthy as humans and elves. In Tafiala, with the events of Kate and her father, the Pope, trying to put banishment and death laws for half-elves, Genus musters up the courage and asks why would he do these things, even as to go as far as to have his own daughter Kate, a half-elf, killed. He finally confesses when he was young he used to hate the persecution of half-elves, but ever since he brought Kate into the world he was terrified of her due to her slow aging process and high academic power, and that half-elves can use powerful magic. He saw her as nothing more than a threat that needed to be cleansed, and that goes for the other half-elves. This is where Genus finally understands where the roots of prejudice comes from and how weak-hearted people can be. He now understands why Kate did horrible experiments on Presea and how Kate was manipulated by her own father, because she wanted to be loved and was happy when the Pope needed her. Even if Daddy's love and having freedom was an illusion, but for Kate, it didn't matter. She wanted nothing more than Dad's approval. When Genus befriends Mythos, another half-elf friend, he is heartbroken when he finds out Mythos is Lord Yggdrasil, and Mythos, the hero, all in one. He was nearly tempted to become part of Crucius, as today proclaimed he can make everyone the same race. In Mythos' new world of lifeless beings, no more discrimination, but thanks to his true friend Lloyd reminding him that the X-spheres and Crucius crystals come from human lives, that it's the weakness of people's hearts that is the roots of discrimination, and not giving up on the world, Genus learns that in order to change the world, you must do it yourself. It's not enough to merely rely on someone else and go along with their ideals. With this new reason, Genus decides in the new world, where humans, elves and all those in between can live in harmony, he will forgive the world itself, let go of hatred and finally move on, making the world easier for half-elves, along with his sister, Rain. Colette Burnell, the ill-fated chosen.
My opinion may not matter much because I don't use an X-sphere. But I believe the Desians will defeat us if we throw away our X-spheres now. And if that happens, more people will lose their lives to these stones. I don't want that to happen. I don't want this journey to be meaningless.
Couldn't possibly be my dad.
Lloyd, don't lose sight of who you are. No matter who your parents are, no matter your background, you're still you.
I'm me?
You're the one who told me that no matter what I look like, even if I become an angel, I'm still me. And don't forget, Grotto saved you. And for myself too. I don't want anyone else to make the same mistake I did. No one should have to think that he has to sacrifice his own life.
Is the female lead and the chosen of Sylvarant, a being destined to regenerate the world by ascending the Tower of Salvation as an angel, thereby saving her world, Sylvarant. When she was born, there was a crucius crystal, an evolved kind of X-sphere in her hand, signifying her as the chosen of regeneration. Her fourth adoptive father and grandmother, Frank Brunel and Phaedra Brunel, respectively raised her in the village as her family. She was brought up with the knowledge that she would need to die in order to save the world, causing her to gain a truly selfless nature. Although she hid this fact from her closest friends, as the party moves from one seal to the next, Colette begins to gain more angelic powers, including angel wings, enhanced sight, and improved hearing. However, she is also losing the things that makes her human, like the ability to taste food, sleep, feel physical emotional pain, and even speaking. She tries to hide this from the party, especially Lloyd, but when she loses the ability to feel, Lloyd tricks her into revealing the truth about her condition, and he goes on to tell the rest of the party eventually. They reach the Tower of Salvation, where Colette is forced to make the final sacrifice. Colette reveals to Lloyd through some non-oral communication that she somehow knew what was going on, and thanks Lloyd for being her friend before sacrificing her heart and memory and becoming unresponsive to the rest of the group. After the group battles Romeo, Krytos arrives and reveals that Crucius' plan is to transfer Martel's consciousness into Colette's body. However, she is taken by the renegades. Lloyd and the party are later forced to flee to the parallel world of Tafiala, taking the soulless Colette with them in hopes of curing her. Colette regains her senses after Lloyd carves a key crest into her late birthday necklace. Colette has been hit with a rare angelic disease that happens 1 in 1 million people, chronic angelus crystallis asphyxia. Geez, try saying that all in one take. Which causes her body to slowly and painfully crystallize. Colette finds this out between her reawakening and her first visit to Azette. But just like her transformation into an angel, she decides to keep it to herself, both out of embarrassment and an unwillingness to make her friends worry. Colette's disease is introduced gradually after she jumps in the way of one of Forcesta's shots. A part of her arm is exposed, revealing she has begun to crystallize. As the party finds a cure and gather the ingredients needed, she is finally restored from her disease. As Colette is captured in the Tower of Salvation after Zelos betrays the group and is brought to the Great Sea Chamber, where Mythos and Pronema proceed to merge Martel with Colette's body. Although Lloyd and his once fought dead friends come to help her, it is too late, as Martel has taken over Colette's body. Martel uses Colette's body to condemn Mythos' actions and urge him to stop what he is doing. And when Zelos arrives to place a key crest on Colette's crucius crystal, causing Martel's unconsciousness to leave her, Colette reveals that Martel subconsciously begged her to stop Mythos and put an end to the suffering that he has caused. In a skit after the group leaves, it is revealed that Colette was able to understand Martel's feelings while she was possessed. Colette thought throughout her life that being a selfless human being and being a sacrifice to make people happy was the only value she had in her life. Also that it was the only motivation to keep her going. But later, after awakening from her dormant state and being cured from her crystal disease, when Lloyd saved her time and time again, that attitude was the very thing that was holding her back throughout her life, and she knew it. She even knew that being a sacrifice to regenerate the world was a false hope, but she couldn't bear to fail with all of that heavy weight of the people's hopes and dreams on her heart, and the people will lose hope and blame her for every misfortune that came with it, thinking that being a sacrifice for Martel was the easy way out, or the only option in her dogma mind. Thanks to Lloyd and the party telling her she's not a burden and that she deserves a future to live. Even Presea reminding her she has done nothing wrong. What's wrong is the system that demands a sacrifice of the chosen, and to never delude herself. She even quotes, "If you let kindness cloud your judgment, it becomes a weakness." With her new reason, she will not repeat the same mistakes. She is no longer shackled to the fate of the chosen. She will no longer throw her life away just for others to be happy. She will treasure her life and future, always reminding herself she has the right to live. No one else decides her future but herself. Rain Sage, the young professor.
Living on without hope is worse than death, don't you think?
I don't understand that at all.
If you don't understand, then make use of your remaining life to think about what it means for a person to live. That's my final lesson to you as your teacher. Now go. Do as your teacher says. People can change, even if they don't change right away. Months, years, as time passes, change is inevitable.
I'm going to stop hating that weakness. My hatred never changed anything. In order to change the world, I must first change myself. I'm glad I was born a half-elf. It was because of it that I met Lloyd and my other dear friends.
She is Genus's older sister and a school teacher of the village of Isalia. She is a mother figure of the group, even though she's only 23 years old. She has a love for academia and lost history. Even old buildings and shrines will make her go into a megalomania mode. She is very knowledgeable when it comes to languages and Medjay technology, and can adapt to things very quickly. She also has healing arts that eventually get powered up thanks to the unicorn horn and Master Boltzmann's healing technique, used a lot throughout the story. When she comes to Tefiala, Rain finds the otherworldly gate and confesses to the group and Genus they're actually from Tefiala. When she was young and Genus was only a baby, they were abandoned here. That's how they ended up in Silverant and eventually Isalia. When the mayor of Isalia finds out that they are half-elves, he is not happy at all. But the villagers don't care, as they see Rain and Genus for the qualities of a person, and the people tell the mayor they are welcome to stay, which brings Rain to tears knowing that there's still hope in humanity after all. If you complete the side quest regarding Rain's past, you find out her elven mother Virginia and Cloyt, her human father, were on the run from the Imperial Research Academy and from the soldiers, as Virginia and Cloyt were in a forbidden relationship. A half-elf sold them out and a huge conflict happened between the half-elves and elves. The family was banished and they couldn't settle down anywhere, as the world was not kind to half-elves. Rain throughout her life thought she was abandoned. When the group finds Virginia again, she is shown to have some kind of post-traumatic stress, as she still believes that she has a small daughter called Rain, and she is still pregnant with Genus. After Rain tries to yell some sense into her, and she still doesn't wake up or remember them at all, it was too much. When the Elder shows her Virginia's diary, the truth comes to light and explains why she has succumbed to only living in the past. She sent her children to the otherworldly gate to freedom in Silverant, as she would not forgive herself if her children were taken away by the Cyback Imperial Research Academy, only to be enslaved in that filthy dungeon for the rest of her life, as well as for Genus. She also lost her husband Cloyt due to an illness after being on the run for so long, when they both collapsed, ending up in Ixalia. With this new knowledge, Rain can finally be at ease, knowing her mother and father truly loved them and valued their children's future than only thinking about themselves. Eventually Rain comes to terms that she is proud to be a half-elf and learns to stop hating her blood, as that will only make her weak and she will only be running away from it, only wanting false happiness and just to be accepted by society. With this new reason, Rain vows to keep herself headstrong and not to run away from her blood roots, to always know there are people out there that will accept her just the way she is. A half-elf, a teacher, a mother figure, and someone who can kick ass when provoked. Ashina Fujibayashi, an outcasted assassin.
For the sake of everyone that risked their lives to protect me, Bolt, I demand your power! I'm so stupid. Stubborn to the very end. I really need to start acting more feminine at times like this and let him rescue me. That wouldn't be my style now, would it? Yeah, we're gonna win. For Mizuho, Corinne, and for all of you who believed in a coward like me.
Tasked by the Tefialian royal family to assassinate the Chosen of Silverant. In her many failed attempts of doing so when she is in Silverland, it is then seen she is a very nice person deep down. But when the village of Lewin was destroyed and the people taken away by the Desians, the group finds her badly wounded, only for Rain to heal her. She then decides to go with the group not only to save the people of Lewin, who gave her lodging, but also to see if there is another way to save both worlds, as eventually she tells the group of why she is tasked to kill Colette, that she is from another world, and if Colette completes the world of regeneration, then her world will be in decline for the flow of mana. But deep down she wants to find a way that doesn't involve killing an innocent person. Eventually we find out she can also form the pact with summon spirits, but there is one summon spirit that haunts her and living in his shadow. At a young age, she was tasked to make the pact with Volt, only for 1/4 of the Mizu population to be destroyed by Volt's wrath, and to put the chief into a coma for years, hence why she was an outcast in her own village. But thanks to Lloyd and the group giving her the power of self-belief and the sacrifice of her dear friend Corinne, and no longer running away, allowing the past to define who she is, she defeats Volt and makes the pact. Kuchinawa, who has revealed himself to be a traitor who wants to kill her because of the Volt incident, left his own parents dead. They agree upon Corinne's spell that they will fight to settle the score, and when entering Mizuho after the meeting, Sheena will go to fight him one-on-one, with Lloyd being the seer. When Sheena wins, Kuchinawa attempts but is stopped by either Lloyd or Sheena, and is told that his life has meaning. Upon pondering this, Kuchinawa says he will find his own reason to live again. He may forgive Sheena and the past. Kuchinawa says the charm that he gave Sheena is no use for her now, but instead Sheena keeps hold of it as a reminder of not to be powerless and to help Kuchinawa find life and meaning again. But he warns he will always be watching her and asks not to break that promise. With this new reason, Sheena can now define her own existence. She is no longer chained to her past mistakes. A girl who is willing to face anything and will no longer run away. She will face things head on and keep her promises to Corinne and Kuchinawa. Presea Combatia, the girl frozen in time.
No, Colette. Don't delude yourself. You haven't done anything wrong. What's wrong is this system that demands the sacrifice of the chosen. Lloyd, you are a kind person. But if you allow your kindness to interfere with your judgment, you're merely weak. You have something you must do. Please do not forget that. Please go. If you don't, I'll lose my respect for you. What you've done caused meaningless suffering and death to countless people. Can you feel their pain?
Presea lives in the village of Ozette as a woodcutter. When she was young, her older sister, Alicia, went to work for a noble in Altamira. But since her father was far too ill to work as a lumberjack, she always wanted to wield an axe in her father's place. So she agreed to go under an experiment with an X-sphere, which allowed her to have increased strength by creating a crucius crystal in the host's body in return. But this experiment was nothing more than taking one's humanity away from them, not allowing them to grow or adapt in the world. The sphere halted Presea's physical body growth and suppressed her emotions, hence why she looks 12 years of age, but really she's 28. Presea was so out of touch, she grew into a routine and did not notice when her father died. As a result, she did not bury him, instead leaving his corpse in his former bed. The party makes Presea a working key crest, finally bringing her back to her conscious reality. But with all the flooded emotions coming back to her all at once, and wondering where her father is, when seeing her father's corpse, she realised much of her life has been missed. After burying her father, swearing vengeance on Varley, she has nowhere else to go, since the village has ostracised her because of her past and being part of the Tefiala clergy. She asked to continue with the party. Upon this journey, she finds out that her sister has fallen victim to the Angelus project, just like her, and turned into a monster, and that the one who killed her was her master. Eventually she finds out it was Regal Bryant. After learning the truth about Alicia's death, Presea has a knee-jerk reaction, like a lot of humans, flooded with emotions, and she doesn't want to let go of her sister that she never got to see and only a small amount of time to be with. But Alicia reminds her if she doesn't destroy the X-sphere, her consciousness will forever be in eternal limbo, not be able to speak, move or think. Presea says her last goodbyes to her before setting her sister's soul free. Throughout the journey, at first Presea didn't want to forgive Regal right away for what had happened to her sister, but eventually she finally lets go of her hatred on Regal and focuses on what her sister would want her to do instead. With this new reason, Presea lets go of her hatred as it only consumes her and spawns new hate, as killing will not solve anything or bring Alicia back. She learns what it means to live and finally live the life she deserves that has been taken away from her 16 years ago. Zelos Wilder, the womanizer and comic relief.
Now, settle down. Are you upset, my little angel? You know, I bet you're as cute as a button when you smile.
All right, I hear you.
I swear, your fervent enthusiasm is enough to melt all the snow in Flanor. I'm in. I guess I'll give this not running away thing a shot. I don't know what to tell you. I'm just a weak, lazy bum. All I want is a fun, easy life. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less.
Also, Tefiella's chosen. Upon first impressions, Zelos is a skirt-chasing, irresponsible and immature man. However, he has more internal conflicts and emotional pain. Due to a traumatic upbringing, he hides his true emotions and presents himself as a confident ladies' man, but he thinks his entire life is a joke, and people only want to be around him because of his chosen status. Upon meeting Lloyd's group that wants to help Colette from her dormant state, he is tasked to keep an eye on them when travelling across Tefiella. But as soon as he agrees to go back to Silveron to help the group, he is then branded a traitor and the Pope orders his arrest. In later parts of the game, it is revealed about Zelos' childhood past, that his father, the last chosen, abandoned him and went with another mistress who was a half-elf, hence Celeste is his half-sister. They still play together, but the other woman, half-elf, wanted Celeste to be the next chosen. While Zelos was making a snowman in Flanor, the half-elf unleashed a barrage of magic. Zelos got away, but Melaine, his mother, was caught in the crossfire. Her last words to Zelos were condemnation, that he should never have been born. The half-elf was later executed, both himself and his status as a chosen, blaming himself for his mother's death, and cursing the chosen system for causing his mother's misery in the first place. He grew up under the impression that he was worthless, a pathetic chosen who could never save the world. This impression was further nurtured by the knowledge that Celeste would have been a far more capable chosen than he would, wishing he had never been born in the first place. When the group decides to attack Crucius head-on, it is revealed Zelos was a spy for Crucius from the beginning, and he wants to side with the winning side, and they would remove his title of the Chosen if he cooperated. Lloyd tells him he would never betray him, as he can see the goodness in his heart and knows deep down that he is still needed by people, especially his friends. There are two routes to the outcome of the Tower of Salvation, depending if you have a higher affection with Kratos. For Route A, if Kratos doesn't have the highest affection rate, then Zelos is a double agent. While in Flanor, Kratos requested that Zelos retrieve the rare stone known as Ionis, a material needed to form the Ring of the Pact and thereby wield the Eternal Sword. The only way for Zelos to obtain it would be for him to enter Crucius' stronghold. Upon reaching the tower, Zelos leads Colette in taking the Eternal Sword, but the angels surround the two, and Pronema reveals Zelos' betrayal before leaving with him. While Lloyd's party makes their way to the Hall of the Great Seed, each of them fall into various traps in an effort to allow Lloyd to challenge Mythos and save Colette and the world. Unbeknownst to Lloyd, Zelos releases them and guides them to the hall, where they unite with Lloyd and help defeat Pronema. Shortly afterward, presumably after attaining Ionis, Zelos rejoins the party and helps defeat Yggdrasil in Route B. If Lloyd spoke with Kratos at Fëanor, Lloyd will ask Zelos if he can trust him. That seems to prompt Zelos to confront the party on his own, rather than leave with Pronema. When he betrays them, he claims he never earned their trust, when Lloyd is angered at his betrayal. He then fights the party, hoping they will kill him and end his fate as a Chosen. As Zelos prepares for his final battle, he tells Lloyd how he only wished for a fun, easy, simple life, one he could not obtain as a Chosen. Zelos fights the party in place of the minor angel boss and is mortally wounded. In the process, he tells the party where Colette is being held and urges them to save her. He then says that after he is dead, Celeste will become the Chosen and be freed from the Abbey. When Lloyd expresses disbelief that Zelos would die for this purpose, he says that it is just a bonus with his last breath. He asks that the group destroy his Crucius Crystal and then he dies to his wounds. But let's go with route A, as Zelos is still alive in the sequel. Zelos does admit while with Lloyd's group he was betraying them, but after witnessing the events from Lloyd saving his friends, even half-elves, saving Presea, making Sheena believe in herself, has given Zelos a new reason. His life has value. From his friends and the people he cares about the most. He will no longer run away and will face the challenges and traumas head on, and this time, as a Chosen, will save the world in his own way and make sure Celeste won't meet the dreadful fate of being the Chosen either. Regal Bryant, the noble convict.
I see that the level of education in Silverant matches the status of the world. Indeed. I have no intention of becoming a part of the food chain without a fight. Even if people become lifeless beings, nothing will change. Discrimination will continue.
A very serious convict sent by the Pope of Tefiala to capture Colette Brunel. The party first meet him at the Maltokyo sewers after defeating minor convicts. He gets hold on Zelos Wilder and says that if they make a move, he will kill him. Presea comes forth and manages to save Zelos, and when Regal sees Presea, he becomes stunned. The party takes this as a warning and fights him. Upon his defeat, Regal passes out, but is far from dead. He is carried by Colette to Mizuho. When waking up, he helps the party when Zelos says that since he wants to talk to Presea, he would have to stick with them without doing anything funny. Regal agrees, but Zelos feels that they have met somewhere in the past, but it seems Presea and Regal's past are linked because of Alicia. They then see in Altamira that Bryant's assistant George is threatened by the ex-Fear broker Varley. Regal saves George by revealing that he is actually the president of the Lezareno company, who has been absent for many years. Duke Bryant tells the group his real identity, and Presea then understands that Regal was the one who killed Alicia. They go up to the terrace where Alicia's grave lies, and her spirit comes forth once again and expresses her happiness that she could meet her master one last time. She and Regal then tell the others that they were in love, but because of their class differences, George split them apart, giving Alicia to Varley for the Angelus project. Regal was forced to give Varley the Tenzia mine in order to get Alicia back, but by then, Alicia's ex-Fear had already caused her mana to go out of control. Then she was transformed into a monster, attacking everybody she saw, Regal included, begging him to kill her before she kills him. Alicia is then killed by Regal. After killing Alicia, Regal hands himself over and was put in jail. However, the Pope promises him that if he can catch a Colette and bring her to him, the Pope will arrest Varley. This is the reason behind his attacks on the group before joining them. Alicia tells Regal he shouldn't be punishing himself and he no longer needs those shackles and to go on and live. When Regal still insists that he is a criminal and needs to be punished, Lloyd assures him he wasn't the only one who had to go through something like this. He and Genus had done the same as well when it came to Marble's death. Also, Lloyd's dad had to kill Anna when her ex-Fear was removed. They themselves don't know if it was the right thing to do, but they were certain that is what those victims would have wanted and wouldn't want any more victims to be slaughtered in the crossfire. With this new reason, Regal then promises he will use his hands as tools of rebuilding than tools of death. He won't let go of his shackles until every X-sphere has been retrieved. Upon saying his last goodbye to his fiancée, his conscience is now clear and can let go of the past, and he's departed and no longer punish himself. Now, let's talk about the four Seraphim, the leaders of Crucius and the ones who made this twisted world in the first place. Martel, a half-elf. Nothing much is mentioned in her story other than being Mythos' big sister. She is one of the four that travelled with Mythos, making a world where humans, elves and all those in between can live in harmony, and to stop the Karlan War. Upon nearly achieving that goal, she was killed by a human traitor, and in a panic, Mythos put her soul into a Crucius crystal and fused her with the Great Seed to preserve her life. When Mythos resurrects her in Colette's body, she condemns her brother's actions, asking him has he forgotten what the mission was. Upon saying goodbye to him and begs him to put this twisted world back to the way it should as her final wish. What we can clearly see in Martel, she is like a mother figure to Mythos, just like Rain and Genis' relationship, which explains why Mythos cannot let her go. Next is Ewan Carfey, another half-elf, who went on the same journey with Mythos. He is also Martel's fiancé. Upon Martel's death, Ewan was on board at first with reviving his beloved by being one of the leaders of Crucius, but later realised how twisted Mythos' plans really were. He is then reminded his fiancé's wishes, saying to end discrimination for all races, not only for half-elves. He should know better and condemn this evil to begin with, so he becomes a double agent and makes his own organisation, the Renegades, to stop Crucius and the Design's plans. Kratos Oran. Since Kratos was a human who lived on Tafiala, he had no elven blood in his veins, unlike Mythos and Ewan. He was forced to ingest a magical rock called Ionis, which allowed him to cast magic and use magical weapons. Just like Ewan, Kratos was not on board with Mythos' twisted plans for the age of lifeless beings. Kratos descended upon Sylvarant. He then met a human woman named Anna Irving, a research subject in the Angelus project. The two fell in love. Kratos soon realised that there had to be a better way to reunite the two worlds, and so he began to search for a way for a human to wield the Eternal Sword, the omnipotent weapon that Mythos had used to split the worlds. The couple was forever pursued by Crucius and soon had a child called Lloyd. Eventually, the Design Grand Cardinal Kavar caught them, at which point Anna's X-sphere was removed. This caused her to become a mindless monster. She attacked the infant Lloyd, who was only saved when their pet, Noish, interfered. These events caused Anna to temporarily regain her old self. She begged Kratos to kill her. He could not bring himself to do it. Anna soon lost control again. She once again turned on Lloyd, and with Noish too injured to help, Kratos killed her in desperation to save his son. Kavar then attacked, causing Lloyd, Noish and Anna to tumble down a cliff near the Isalia human ranch. Kratos managed to defeat Kavar's men and then descended down the cliff, only to find ravaged Design corpses. Believing his family to be dead, Kratos lost meaning in his life. He soon returned to Crucius, where he aided Mythos, believing the half-elf would reunite the two worlds after Martel was revived. When the Crucius crystal kept in the Isalia Martel temple shines, Mythos sent Kratos to watch over Colette and make sure she does not stray off from the journey of regeneration. When he sees Anna's grave, where Dirk's house is, and Lloyd saying it's his mother, that's when Kratos realises Lloyd is his son. Upon seeing and hearing his son Lloyd that throwing your life away to a cause will achieve nothing, and that Lloyd can be the one to save the world, but this time allowing others to have the right to live and have their freedoms and humanity intact. Throughout the story, Kratos is a double agent working for Crucius and behind the scenes helping Lloyd create the world Mythos could not, using Zealous to help the group in between while he gathers the materials of making the material blade and the Pact Ring. After defeating Mythos, Kratos decides to reside at Deras Karlan as an overseer for the remaining half-elves there, and will send the remaining X-spheres that Crucius has into outer space. Mythos himself, a hero who saved the world 4,000 years ago from the ancient Karlan War between Tafiala and Silverant when the world was one, but with a fatal trade-off when his sister Martel was killed by a human. He promised, as part of the Pact of Origin and the Summer Spirit, was going to revive the giant Karlan tree. He took it for himself to Darius Karlan to protect the seed and his sister, therefore breaking the pact. Ready to make the preparations for a new vessel. From there, he split the world into two halves, founded the Desians and the Church of Martel. He used humans who he described as filth to be prisoners of labour and test subjects at his human ranches that will make a Nazi scientist or Unit 731 scientist proud, where X-spheres and crucial crystals were made and crafted from human lives, making the false promise of the new age of half-elves and alter the course of history under the name to resurrect his dead sister. But that was just a catalyst. He sinisterly wanted to bring about the new age of lifeless beings, so that everyone can be just like Colette, Presea, and Martel in a dormant hollow shell of their former selves, not be able to think for themselves, to feel any emotions, and making everyone the same, all because of his sister's dying wish that he misinterpreted in his grief. But unlike the rest of the main characters, Mythos refuses to let go of the past. If it means to destroy both worlds in order to reclaim what he had lost, then he will do it. When Martel's consciousness is in Colette's body and she tries to remind him of what he used to be, and begs him to let go of the impossible goals of the age of lightless beings, stop making people suffer, and lastly, be his old self again and grow. Mythos does not want to hear rejection, and will be in constant denial that his sister will never say such a thing or reject his ideals after 4,000 years of humans, elves and half-elf sacrifices in order to get to this point. Mythos, in his twisted mind, wanted to be the grand controller over everyone. His way was the only way of getting things done. He didn't want to feel guilt, be betrayed, or be rejected by anyone anymore. But as we know, in the end, his self-destruction of a man led him to his own demise. Let's talk about how Mythos created the two worlds into what he despised the most. Silverant, the world of needless sacrifices, and Tafiella, the world of mass prejudice. Let's recap from the beginning of the game. Remember how the mayor from Isalia was nothing more than a complainer, a weak-hearted man that couldn't come up with solutions? When things go wrong or someone comes to cause harm to the village, someone has to be a sacrificial lamb to take the fall. Just like what happened to Lloyd and Genus being banished from the village. Even when someone stood up for them, saying it was a harsh punishment, the other villagers followed suit with the mob mentality, and the mayor knew this. To keep only himself safe and make the village dependent on him, all in the name of safety. Next we have Governor General Dor of Palmacosta, who betrayed his own people and the Palmacosta region to his own selfish acts. Now before you say, well, he only wanted his wife to become human again and we should give him sympathy, remember, many people had suffered the same fate as Clara, and they didn't choose to be victims, let alone people being taken away to the ranch against their own will. Dor could have done what Lloyd said, give up his position and find another way. But why would he, as he will lose his status, the money, and could not bear for the people to find out the truth that he betrayed them, and due to the loss of hope, he believes the chosen will fail anyway, and that the easy option was to cooperate with the enemy. He wants to be in power. He doesn't care about the people, only himself. Trusting the Desians was the most stupid decision to make. A wise governor would know the Desians will keep dragging the situation along and keep the carrot dangling in front of him, but will never reach it. He has given taxpayers' money to the Desians, allowed them to do a near public execution, let alone allow pilgrims to be abducted by them to be cattle at their ranches. What's worse is, he didn't even know his own daughter was already dead, while being preoccupied with his cooperation with the Desians of making higher taxes. But in the end, all his efforts were for nothing, as Dor was stabbed in the back, literally, by a half-elf disguised as his daughter, and telling them there is no cure for Clara. Dor dies, but asks Lloyd to save Chocolate and his wife, which you can do in a side quest, and see Clara be the next governor in the sequel. Lastly, we have the Pope of the Church of Martel in Tafiella. The Pope was born as an illegitimate son of the previous king of Tafiella, making the current king's younger half-brother. Filled with bitter and envy that his older brother is heir to the throne. He's worked his way up the social ladder to become the Pope, to secretly gain his trust and murder him for the throne, and in doing so, and establish many cruel and discriminative laws against half-elves, based on his fear of the half-elven population with their powerful magic and slow aging process. The party learns from Varley that the Pope is a major buyer of X-spheres, makes the X-sphere connection between the Church of Martel and the designs of Silverant. The Pope tries to use Kate again to try and take the princess hostage in exchange for Zealous Wilder. Kate must have said no, otherwise she wouldn't have been drugged. The plan is foiled when Zealous sees the princess' eyes are not Hilda's but Kate's. The Pope was later removed from power by the King of Tafiella after heavy persuasion from Tafiella's chosen, and to abolish the discrimination laws against half-elves. The king said he would do what he can, but he can't force people to change their opinions on half-elves, as the roots of hatred run very deep. Now, what traits does these three characters have to become weak-hearted men, let alone allow themselves to betray their own people and family? Self-victimization, loss of hope, and fear. The mayor constantly complained, used sacrificial lambs, and proclaimed he has surrendered to the Desians with the peace treaty to keep the village safe, even though he knew full well people would still be taken away to the ranch at any moment. But really, it was to make sure he was in full control and that the Desians, or anyone for that matter, cannot take away his status. He even believed the Chosen would fail on her journey to get rid of the Desians and regenerate the world. And it was the same with General Dahl, using his wife's illness to commit atrocities and betray his own people. And when someone like Lloyd or Chocolat used truth and reason to show how much of a coward they really were, they had to be silenced in some way, like Lloyd being banished or Chocolat being taken away to the human ranch. But for the Pope of Tafiella, who was scared of half-elves, even though it shouldn't be because his own daughter was a half-elf who loved him dearly, and he knew that, but he still abused that love for his own selfish gain. And what he was really scared of is losing his position as Pope, as others in Tafiella hated half-elves as much as he did, ready to use his daughter as a sacrificial lamb to keep his position. Self-victimization, loss of hope, and fear is such a vain and lowest of the low answers for the atrocities they have done to the innocent, all in the name of safety, having their own rank of status and stature intact. But what if the mayor of Visalia, Governor General Dahl, defied the Desians and their villages and cities were destroyed? And what if the Pope was right about the half-elves, that they were too dangerous to be allowed into society? Human lives that are taken or destroyed can never be rebuilt or reclaimed. Villages and cities, status and wealth can always be rebuilt again. Just like the people of Lewin who defied the Desians by hiding escapees in their village, and even though in the end their village was destroyed and were taken to the Asgard Ranch. When the party saved them, there were no sacrificial lambs. No one was blamed for the incident. In the side quest of rebuilding Lewin, giving enough geld to Petro allowed the villagers to rebuild Lewin, and even made statues of the heroes who saved them in their honour. If there are humans, there are tools. Tools can rebuild society in hands of people who have hope, but it can always destroy in idle hands. But for the Pope, who is he to judge that every single half-elf on Tafiella was too dangerous and will ruin society, as anyone who is alive is capable of doing the same. But once these leaders were on this selfish path, they believed they were so far gone that this was the only path in front of them to choose. Methos, who was the puppeteer behind the strings, manifested those dangerous traits into the leaders of both worlds. But of course, Methos' grand master plan of the Age of Lifeless Beings is far more sinister than a Desian peace treaty or half-elf discrimination laws. He is trying to make a world where freedom is abolished, taking away people's humanity, emotions, feelings, and not allowing anyone to be thinking for themselves, turning them into nothing but puppets ready to take orders or cogs to keep the haphazard engine running, so no one can rebel, disagree, or be a free thinker. This kind of nightmare world has already been written thanks to Aldous Huxley's 1932 dystopian novel, Brave New World. Brave New World tells us about an unsettling utopian world, controlled from beginning to end. There is no such thing as family or human procreation. Rather, humans are grown in labs, and when they are children, they are conditioned by the one world government to behave in a well-defined way. But everyone is happy, associated by pleasure. Well, mostly everyone. But this false state of happiness is what led to the democratic demand for conditioning, training people to want what they can't have, not to think in ways that will make them miserable, to use drugs to enter into a state of bliss whenever things go badly. Where have we seen that in the game? We see something similar in City of Angels, Gaia, where half-elves are happy to throw away their humanity, who want more than anything happiness and to be the superior race. But instead of using the drug Soma, they use crucial crystals to inhibit their humanity, falsely making themselves gods, and anything that makes them miserable and scared to enter a state of dormant bliss. It's their popular demand for these things that allows the Grand Controller Mythos to brutally condition people, all in the name of making everyone the same race, for the sake of happiness and safety. Because isn't it easy if all the world's problems went away, not only by conditioning others, but if everyone is the same race, can no longer be miserable, can no longer harm one another, can no longer think for themselves, can no longer think bad thoughts, let alone think at all. Someone who has given up on life itself, doesn't want to face any type of struggle, and don't want to let go of the past would think it's paradise. But to someone who is always ready to face adversity, values their dignity, freedom and beauty, would see the illusion for what it really is. Pure hell. What's quite ironic is how Mythos has created the near-perfect illusions of the divine by founding the religion of Martel, using mutated half-elves as angelic gods thanks to the power of the crucial crystals, and using the Lord and Saviour, the Chosen, to bear the burdens and hopes of the world to be sacrificed, not only to keep the masses down from thinking for themselves, but also to craft the perfect vessel for his sister in between. But as the party finds out who the Crucius organisation really is, and how the two worlds were really built, as Huxley wrote in his novel, nothing but pure sensation. All because Mythos, consumed by grief, cannot let go of Martel, and wants to keep the masses occupied with pleasure, false hope, tyrannical conditions, and a way of life that leads to nowhere but needless human sacrifices. Actual happiness always looks pretty squalid in comparison with over-comprehensions for misery. And of course, stability isn't so spectacular as instability, and being contented has none of the glamour of a good fight against misfortune, none of the picturesqueness of struggle with temptation, or fatal overthrow by passion or doubt. Happiness is never grand. Let's not forget, when Mythos finds out his 4,000-year-old plan to bring his sister back to life was all for nothing, he again, instead of accepting that Martel rejects this and wants him to go back to his old self again and let go of the past, he takes the easy way out and uses the copium of victimhood to twist Martel's final words into thinking Martel and himself should build a new world on Deris Karlon and was ready to commit genocide on both worlds. When it comes to Lloyd Irving's ideals and for a world of freedom that he strives for, it is a very difficult one to achieve, but allowing people the right to suffer, the right to overcome misery and misfortune, the right to disagree, the right to make mistakes, the right to think for oneself, the right to look for solutions, the right to run away from one's own problems, but ultimately the right to live, will give individuals a chance to grow and become better people. When it comes down to it all, Lloyd's ideals have strong foundations which will allow anyone to overcome adversities, lies, and unpredictable misfortunes, beckoning man to a higher destiny. Truth, logic, stoicism, and humility are the enemies of easy, undisturbed, collective cowardice. Huxley wrote greatly, "You got rid of them. Yes, that's just like you. Get rid of everything unpleasant instead of learning to put up with it. Whether it is better in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles and opposing end them. But you don't do either, neither suffer or oppose. You just abolish the slings and arrows. It's too easy." Mythos wanted to make his dystopian world as it was the easy path, by trying to abolish all problems, discomforts and evils, in exchange of human sacrifices and being in full control of everyone's lives, and only he gets to decide how things got done. But in the end, he failed, not only because his close companions and his sister rejected his impossible ideals, but seeing how evil they truly were. Mythos was killed because he refused to let go of his self-victimization. He had so many helping hands reaching out to him, begging him to stop and to turn back to his heroic self, but he chose to refuse them all, and in the end, his inhumane ideals and cowardice is what led to his own death. The proper response to troubles and evils, by trying to maintain one's own freedom, just like Lloyd and his friends, is when we face whatever is bad, we don't go running away begging the corrupt controllers to take the pain away or sacrificing our liberties for a quieter life, but to face them ourselves, and by opposing, end them. You know, pray not for easy lives, pray to be stronger men. Tales of Symphonia is a game that does present the challenges to us of what happens when good men do nothing, when we continuously allow ourselves to be victims, not letting go or running away from the past, rather than to face and learn from the dire experiences head on. When we look deep within ourselves, I think we can all relate to Mythos in some way, just like the rest of the cast who are connected to him. Being in a world where no one wants you. Being shackled to your religious cult or your fate the moment you were born. Being an outcast or ostracized from communities for your mistakes or beliefs. Being frozen in time, or in our real world cases, losing your childhood and adolescence. Losing someone important to you. Trying to better the world. Takumi Miyajima has done a great job in telling a story of what it means to be human, and the common themes of evil prevails when good men do nothing, accepting that happiness is never grand. Being a victim doesn't make one virtuous. Being a survivor makes one strive forwards and never look back. After playing this game again after so many years, even though it can be cliche at times, reminds me of the dangers of being a victim. But in all, if you are living and breathing on this earth, you yourself can always overcome those challenges if you value your humanity, freedom and morals, as we don't want to end up being another Mythos Yggdrasil, a broken man-child. Thank you for watching till the very end, and I hope you enjoyed this synopsis. But what do you think? Is there anything I have missed? What does this game mean to you? Type in the comments section and tell me. If you haven't subscribed yet, click on it now, as I pump out more content on analysing themes in video games and nerd culture. This is Prisoner 1313 signing out.